tonight. We have the minutes enclosed in the consent agenda, regular meeting minutes from September 27th, and then several special meetings, October 16th, October 9th, September 21st, October 13th. We have a curriculum meeting on the 5th of October and the HR committee meeting on October 15th. Those are all included in the consent agenda. The cafeteria report is also enclosed. Mr. Fox, I know that we worked to kind of get a different form and for the cafeteria report last year, and I know that this is the beginning of this year, and we're moving towards that again. This was fine. Didn't we also add to this a page of expenses at the end of last year? Did we?
So yeah, Denise did that, and Ryan is working
right,
through.
and you're still working towards that. Okay, I just wanted to make sure because that was really helpful. I thought to have it all kind of capsulized there for us. Then I just had a couple questions under the sales. So the amounts at Central and the junior high and South Side are for teachers. Is that correct? Because aren't the kids are free, right?
Yeah, it could be that the students who go back and get like extra milks, things like that.
Okay. And then the high school would be the a la carte, I'm assuming.
Correct.
The big number there would
As
be the a
well
la carte.
as well as staff who go through the
And the staff,
any of the
right.
lines, yes.
Okay, that's what I figured. I was just curious about that. And I was curious why it's so low at the junior high, but that must mean nobody.
We don't have many staff that eat there,
Okay.
and really, we used to be in the past, pre-COVID, we would make extra food and we'd allow 8th graders to go back and get seconds, which we don't do that now with
Because we don't
COVID.
have-
We just eat and
Okay.
get out of there, so.
Okay, I was just curious why it was so much less. Okay, thank you for the information. All right, we also have a student teacher coming in the this semester, I guess, is here in first grade at Southside with Valerie Groingmeyer. The student teacher is Kaylee Holman. We have 3 fundraisers in the packet tonight. The EHS Math Club is selling fresh fruit to purchase extra fruit to donate to families in need and fund Six Flags Math and Science Field Day. That will be November 18th to December 2nd. That's always very good. I bought that in past years too. And the EJHS Library is going to have a book fair to fund to purchase books for their library November 1st to the 5th. And the EJHS Student Council will be selling Little Debbie snacks one day a month to raise funds for school-wide projects and prizes from November till May. We have one field trip at the junior high, a trip to Elevate Trampoline Park in Champaign for students that sold qualifying amounts of fundraiser items. That is scheduled for October, it's passed. Yeah, October 19th. So hopefully they had a good time.
They did.
All right. Let's see. Foundation report, I guess, would be next. Todd? I'm sorry, did I skip something?
Yeah, we need to.
Oh, I'm sorry, I did. Before you do that, it's the Unit 40 Foundation Director. We do need to add we have an open seat, and we are adding Ryan Engel to serve as the Foundation Director. Do I need a motion for that?
And we need a motion for the consent agenda.
The whole agenda.
The whole thing, okay. Okay, I will entertain a motion and a second to accept the consent agenda as presented.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Dasha, is there a second? Second by Brad. Roll call?
Brad,
Yes.
Jill,
Yes.
Jane, yes, Chad,
Yes.
Jessica,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Robin.
Yes, okay. Jumped ahead, Todd, so you'll be in just a minute. All right, correspondence is next, and we have a couple here. First, from Ron and Sally Kyle. Thank you for your thoughtfulness during this difficult time. We also want to say thank you for the beautiful peace lily and memory stone in remembrance of Troy's parents from the Kyle family. And from the family of Catherine Ann Baggins, Thank you so much for the memorial stone you sent to Ann's funeral. Your thoughtfulness and kindness are much appreciated by the entire family.
Yes.
Okay, we are back up?
Yep.
Okay, for those of you that are watching the meeting being streamed, we had a little bit of technical difficulty, but we believe that we're back in session now. So superintendent's report is next.
I'll go ahead and acquiesce. Todd, you want to step up to the microphone, please? And just share on the foundation report?
Sure. Foundation met October the 12th, just a couple weeks ago. A couple things that we talked about were we did some fundraising. We provided staff goodie bags to all the teachers and employees of the district. Those were well accepted by everyone that received one. They really enjoyed them. I know that foundation directors, several of them, along with Coles Cares, helped put them all together. It was a big undertaking, but it went over really well. We also are planning our breakfast with Santa, December the 4th at EHS, 7 o'clock to 11 o'clock in the morning. Bring your family and friends out. We couldn't have it last year, so hoping this year's going to be a big one. Also, teacher grant requests. We funded 7 requests to the amount of $8,767, and that's going to go directly to those 7 teachers to provide things for our students in Unit 40. We do that every fall, and it's been quite an undertaking for all the years that we've done it. I don't have a total amount on everything that we've ever funded, but I have to get that for you sometime. I think you'd be surprised by how much we've funded for those things. Also, after we finished the teacher grants, our prize patrol, Robin included, presented teacher grants or teacher awards to those teachers that got those grants. So they showed up in the buildings and let them know that they were awarded that grant. And then they contacted me and I gave them the procedure to go through so we can get those things ordered and they can receive them as soon as possible. That went over really well. Then we also talked about needing another director, and I was going to ask you to please approve Ryan Engel as our director. We talked about having him join our foundation board. He's going to be a good addition for us. So thank you for doing that tonight. That's my report.
Thank you.
Okay, there were 0 FOIA requests this past month. Enrollment is included, and 10-15-21 we're down 30 students. The overall enrollment is 2,336. So that's broke down for you by class, grade level. And so I just want one thing to add. So if you could bear with me a little bit, but Illinois Principals Association encourages all communities to celebrate Principal Appreciation Week, and that's this week, October 24th through the 30th. And Principal Appreciation Day is on Friday, October 29th. So the state endorsed recognition was first approved in 1990, and it's celebrated annually. So I just want to point out to the board and to the public, you know, our administrative team and principals and assistant principals do a wonderful job, and sometimes they put in long hours and make some tough decisions, but we've got a great group of staff, administrators that help lead our schools. And so I wanted to take a minute to say thank you to them and also point out that it's a Principal Appreciation Week. So thank you to all of our administrators, not only the ones here this evening, but also those that work every day alongside our staff. So I want to make sure we did that publicly. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that is all.
All right. New business, tentative tax levy approval. Mr. Fox?
Okay, got to work through this process with the board. Last year, our equalized assessment value was $485,070,684. The board or the district, we always try to ask for a little over what we think the actual receipts will be. We will only get the amount of money that is allotted to us, but if we don't ask for a little more, then we may miss out on some of those dollars that are collected but won't come to us as a taxing body. So the district has always done a 6% ask in the past. And so that would mean that the EAV would end up at $514,174,925.04. That'd be a 6% increase. In our conversations with the county, the assessor's office, different individuals, we believe, based on that information, actual receipts will come in at a 4% increase. Okay, so actual EAV will come in at $504,473,511.36. And so that's what we expect to get, but we're going to ask for 6% increase instead. If EAV comes in at 4%, then the estimated tax rate would be 3.5376. This past year, the overall tax rate was 3.5389. So it's going to go down very, very minimal or stay the same. That's our estimated tax rate. Okay. Because we asked for a 6% increase, we do need to hold a truth and taxation hearing. And so we would be running an ad in the newspaper next week because it has to be in between 14 and 17 days before the hearing. We would run that next week, basically stating that we are asking for a 6.08% increase in our tax rate, which actually our tax rate will stay the same, but we're asking for that kind of increase. We will do that. We would hold a hearing at the November 15th meeting at 6 o'clock for the public to come in and ask any questions or make comments as well. Are there any questions from the board about this process?
So real quick to clarify, so on this tentative tax levy, the estimated tax rate is going to be at or below this year's.
At or below the same rate that taxpayers are paying this year.
And if you look in the packet, I think we shared, or Jason might have shared with you, the rate, in 2014 was 3.627. So it has been going down pretty much each year since that point. And so we want to continue that if kind of depends on the EAV, but we definitely do not want to increase it.
And as we talked about, I think we actually talked about this a little bit with the budget class we did as well. We are planning a spend down of funds in a couple of the funds in order to keep that tax rate low. We have a fund balance in a couple of our funds, which we can't control. So we actually plan to spend down in those in order to keep our tax rate lower.
Okay, anything else for Mr. Fox? Okay, then I will entertain a motion and a second to adopt the October 2021 tentative tax levy as presented and to set a levy hearing for Monday, November 15th, 2021 at 6 o'clock p.m. Motion by Chad. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Brad. Roll call.
Jill,
Yes.
Jane, yes, Chad,
Yes.
Tisha, Steve,
Yes.
Robin,
Yes.
Brad.
Yes.
Hey, shield testing update.
I just wanted to bring to kind of share this information with the board, but there seems to be a changing and evolving situation. I wish it wasn't a changing and evolving, but this is the way it works. The district will start shield testing. That date is set for November 15th. We had shared with the board a couple weeks ago, we had a little hiccup in regards to the onboarding on whether the district was even going to have the opportunity to continue with shield because of a new policy from IDPH. We worked through that and got the approval to move forward. And so we've done that. We were going to shoot for November 8th, but that's the week we have parent-teacher conferences, and we're only in 3 days that week. And so we're pushing it back to the 15th. In the meantime, we're continuing with the Buy Next Now testing for staff. So we have uploaded into the roster about 136 staff and about, so far, 138 students. So we have 138 students across the district. The parents have submitted a consent form that would begin a weekly test, which quite frankly is we started with a guess of around 50 to 70. And it's, when I had a conversation with IDPH, that's the numbers I told them. And we talked through that they have seen every place that shield test has been put in, that grows as it moves forward. And so whether it does here or not, but it already has, and we haven't even started. So one of those, a couple things that, just for informational purposes, we can continue to add students. as if families want to do that as parents, it's an opt-in, so it's strictly parental consent, and it's voluntary. And so it's every week throughout the rest of the year. Somebody said, well, can we stop? And as far as we're concerned, yes, you can. So it's one of those things that it's there for families. But put out more information in regards to shared with staff in regards to our ongoing Binax testing. We'll continue to do that for the next 3 weeks, and then we'll start November 15th that week. I still don't have a schedule we have a third-party administrator that will come in. They're called Zebra Health. So they'll come in, we're providing them the information, but they're going to make the schedule, and they'll have the staff to do that test. And those are our spit tests that will then be taken to Champaign on a daily basis, and we should get results in 24 hours. So just wanted to give an update on that. If there's any questions, I'll try to definitely answer those.
Okay. Seeing none, we'll move on to the roof project bid acceptance.
Okay, so we put out bids for transportation, buildings roof, as well as Central Grade School's gym roof. For the first time since I've been in this position, we had 6 bidders for the projects, which is a lot compared to usually it's 1 or 2. So we examined those. Our architect went through those, talked to both groups. They feel like both groups are ready to go. So we would recommend Top Quality Roofing for the transportation facility for a cost of $132,900. And we would recommend Care Brothers Roofing for the Central Grade School gym at a cost of $211,400.
Any questions for Mr. Fox on the roof bids?
Can you kind of share, Mr. Fox, with just how those are budgeted and how the district's going to pay for those?
Sure. The transportation facility, that will come out of Fund 40, which is our transportation fund, which is a very healthy fund for us. The Central Grade School is the one we've asked for the state to give us $50,000 in maintenance grants. And we plan to pay for the rest of that HUD by safety money, so it will not affect the ed or the O&M funds.
Did we say that these were the lowest bids?
They are. Okay. Anything else? All right. Then I will entertain a motion and a second to accept the transportation roofing project bid from Top Quality Roofing at a cost of $132,900 and accept the Central Gym roofing project bid from Care Brothers Roofing at a cost of $211,400.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Brad, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Desha. Roll call?
Jane, yes. Chad?
Yes.
Desha?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Robin?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
Jill?
Yes.
All right, bidding of the South Side project.
Okay, so the South Side project, previously, the last few years, we've addressed some issues in the building. We did a full remodel of the East End classrooms when we had to take care of some asbestos because we had to replace a roof. So that project continued to grow. We had to replace a roof. We couldn't do that until we took care of the asbestos. Well, when we did the asbestos, we had to do everything else in those rooms. So the East End got a major overhaul 2 years ago. This last summer, we redid bathrooms as well as flooring in the hallways in the cafeteria/gymnasium and some offshoots of there. What we would like to do is we'd like to expand and finish that building. We'd like to remodel those classrooms on the west end with new lights, new ceilings, new paint, new flooring. We would also like to do all the HVAC in the building. It is the only building that we currently use in the district that still has window shakers or window air conditioners. We'd like to get rid of those. We'd like to get rid of the univent hot water heaters in the classrooms, open up classroom space, and actually get some central air and central heat into there and do it like we have our other buildings now. With that, we would also put the ionization units inside the HVAC so we could make it a healthier building as well and not have wall-mounted units. That would help us do that. We would remove asbestos from 4 classrooms, asbestos floor tile. at the same time. And then we would finish out the roof. We did the east end roof, but we'd be able to finish out the west end roof as part of that as well. So we would just ask the board to allow us to go ahead and bid out that project so we can get a number. We do have funds reserved in ESSER 3 for this project. We hope that, until we get a bid, we won't know if we reserved enough or not. So.
Any questions for Mr. Fox on that?
I think just from the committee standpoint, the Facility and Transportation Committee, we discussed Friday, was just make sure that the full board understands the project and what's moving forward. It's be one of the last major projects for our buildings. Hopefully this will be the last, with all our buildings will be up to speed and up to date and great learning environments. So that's why we wanted to bring it. The committee wanted to bring it tonight.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion and a second to approve bidding out the Southside Grade School project.
Motion.
Motion by Steve, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Jill. Roll call?
Chad,
Yes.
Jessica,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Robin,
Yes,
Brad,
Yes.
Jill,
Yes.
Jane, yes.
motion carries. All right, possible AstroTurf project at EHS.
Okay, so I want to kind of give a little bit of background on how this has come to where we're at today and for discussion. So let me be very clear up front, because I don't know, I want to make sure everyone understands this. Brought it to the committee just as a make sure that they were aware that this was being talked about by groups of individuals and in the town and in the district, just as this is going to come forward. And so kind of brought it to the Facilities and Transportation Committee just to be aware that this was coming. And now it kind of came real quick. So once we found out that this was being talked about, I asked Mr. Fox to go ahead and seek out some options. And so then we had another discussion, gathered some information, and then had more discussion at the Facility and Transportation Committee. So there's no decisions being made tonight. It's informational. But in order for, if this project gets talked about and funds are raised and things like that, and we'll talk about that in a minute, December is the date that there needs to be a decision one way or the other from the Board of Education. If the project wants to be done next summer in time for next fall. Okay, so there's no decision that needs to be made tonight. Wasn't expecting that. So on our discussion at the committee level, I'll go into in a minute. But so that's kind of the background of where we're at. So we put some information in your packet. I'm going to ask Mr. Fox to go through some of that and especially, just kind of break down a cost. And then I'll kind of share a little bit more information and then we'll kind of open it up for discussion if that's okay. So, Mr. Fox?
Okay, so in your packet, there's a proposal, the drawing that I think you have in front of your spots there. So when we looked at this, we looked at styles of turf. The company we're using is Vernon Jones. Vernon Jones is a turf installation company. Yeah, I got it on every spot. So they're a turf installation company. They are not a turf manufacturer. So they do not try to specify one kind of turf. They do not make a turf to be put in. They go out and figure out what turf is the best turf for your situation. So we looked at a couple of different kinds of turf. We looked at tufted turf, which is a backing where they just punch holes through the backing. It's kind of like carpet where it sticks straight up through the turf. And then there's also a woven turf, which means it goes through the backing multiple times before it comes out. Tufted is what a lot of schools are putting in because it's a little bit cheaper. It also only has an 8-year warranty and a life expectancy of about 10 years max. The woven, for just a little bit more money, actually has a 12-year warranty and has a life expectancy of 12 to 15 years. And in Europe, they're seeing 15 plus years out of it. Okay, so it makes more sense from our application to look at the woven. So we looked at the woven turf along with a shock pad upgrade. A shock pad is a fiberglass pad that is installed underneath your turf. And that's required in all NFL stadiums now because when helmets hit the ground, it allows for more concussion protection. If we're going to do this, we probably need to do it right. We need to protect our kids and both soccer, football, whoever's out there, that when they land on that turf, we give them the most impact. So the total cost with the woven turf and the shock pad upgrade would be $1,095,423. Now, some other options that are in there. One thing we need to probably just count on is soil stabilization. You need to make sure your soil is right before you start putting the track in, or you will have problems for the whole life of the turf. So soil stabilization on this size of a project is budgeted at $72,645. 85% of installations need soil stabilization. So we need to build that cost in, and then from there, we can, if it's not needed, they don't bill us for it. We don't pay for it. But as a budgetary cost, we need to build that in. With the placement of the turf and where the football field and soccer field will be painted, we need to move the field down a little bit from where it's currently painted. The football field is currently painted. So we need to move to the south a little bit, which means we would need to relocate our pole vault, runway, and pits. We need to take them out of the inside of the track, place them outside over there by where the long jump pit is. And you can see down in the corner, there's a bright red line down here. That's the new placement or recommended placement of the pole vault, runway, and pits. So that would be moved out there to allow us. If we don't do that, the soccer field would fit barely on the turf, but when they do corner kicks, they'd have to run from the turf from the track onto the turf to make a kick. Not safe, not the way we want to do it. So we want to move that. The total cost of that new pole vault runway is $44,215. And then the other thing we want to at least look at is a new scoreboard. When they put the turf in, they have to remove our scoreboard. Our scoreboard, if you've been to a game lately, is in very poor shape. It's 23 years old, 22 years old, and it is in poor shape. Recommendation would be to take that scoreboard from that location and get rid of it, put a new scoreboard in on the south end, slightly to the west, so that the home bleachers can see it much easier. It's also going to be equipped with all the speakers. If you've been to Mount Zion or to Taylorville, their scoreboard has all their speakers in it. It's much easier to hear that than the pole mounted, which depends on where you're sitting, what kind of sound you get. And you also don't have the issues with the official's mic cutting out speakers as we had on Friday night with ours. And so the recommendation would be to look at that new scoreboard. Now, the scoreboard, I've met with NEPCO. I'm meeting with NEPCO again tomorrow at 4 o'clock out at the field to take a closer look at it and get some different mock-ups. They said $215,000 fully installed would be in the ballpark. That'd be a good budget number. So all in all, if you were to do everything, then you would be looking at a price tag of $1,427,283. Now, I did talk with the band about their need or their desire to see turf put in. And some of the key points they talked about is they travel to the junior high every Tuesday and Thursday night. And I say night because they don't start until 6:30, and they go till 8:30 at night with their practice. So it's always after dark. And they are traveling from the high school across the highway to the junior high, transporting large equipment, rolling it back and forth. Now, we thought about, well, we'll just buy more equipment, but some of that equipment is $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 a piece. So purchasing that, so they are rolling it back and forth right now. Also, that equipment gets damaged in the travel. The quality of the field at the junior high, obviously it's got holes, it's muddy, it's not as taken care of as it once was when it was a football field, when it was actually used as a field. It's, lined. But even this year, we had to cut back. We had to water down the paint because we couldn't find paint. We had to make sure the fields got painted. We had to water it down. There is no viewing tower. So when they're doing their performances for the director to be able to stand high, see from above, the viewing tower was no longer health, life, safety approved, so it had to come down. And then we haven't put a new one back up. And so there's no viewing tower. Lights at the junior high, if you remember, we thought we had those getting replaced for free. Then it didn't work out with Ameren. They didn't end up doing it for us. Well, we are talking about $1,200 a light to fix those that are over there. So only about half of those work right now. And then the last one is they would feel, two things. because he added another one on me later. They'd like to practice in the same environment that they're going to perform. Right now, other teams practice on the same field in which they're going to perform, at same look, same style, and then they'd like to protect their new uniforms. If you remember, we spent a whole lot of money on band uniforms here recently, and they'd like to protect those by being able to practice and use those on the turf versus the field. I talked to soccer. Soccer talked a lot about equality of their sport versus other sports. They can't host any nighttime competitions. And a lot of times after the time change, they are stopping their matches early because it gets too dark and they can't continue to play because they have the lights out there. This will allow them to play under the lights, allow them to schedule night matches so that they can go out and do that. It would allow for spectator seating that they just don't have now. It would be more ADA compliant as far as people getting out to the field to watch what's going on. They would have a real scoreboard. Right now, they have a very small scoreboard stuck way away from the field because we didn't have money at that time to run that all the way out there. So it's way back over by the fence. And then they would not have to practice on the baseball field. Currently, soccer practices over on the secondary baseball field in the outfield because they don't want to tear up their game field. So those were all things given to me by those programs as thoughts why we would love to have this as an option because it would help our programs out.
So let me share a little bit more information. The committee in discussions wanted to bring this forward and announce that this is a possibility of a project, but there needs to be outside financial support for this project to move forward, at least from the discussion we had so far. And any funding commitments would need to be explored further prior to the final vote by the board, which would probably be in December or earlier if it can be. So we'd look for some financial partnerships, and we'll start if that's the direction that the board wishes to move. We wanted to talk about, I think Mr. Fox shared about equality and safety for 2 programs, but I also want to point out that there'll be a lot more programs than just football and soccer and band being using this facility if it comes to fruition. Yes, football, yes, soccer, and yes, band. But we also have any of our PE classes, when it's wet, can be used. Our spring softball and fall and spring baseball will be able to use it as well. So it's much more of a use per se, rather than it's not a football field only. And so I think that's key. We just had band here, 30 bands, over 30 bands, and there was a concern because we had so much rain, about getting out on the field. So I think I just wanted to point that out, that it will be used if the project goes forward. So one of the questions that may come up in many people's minds is, and it came up in mine, probably part of the reason why, at least I've never brought something like this forward so far, is what other projects do we have in the district that may not get done or couldn't get done if we did this? Well, we have a lot of projects that are going on. If you would think in the last 3 to 5 years, what the projects we've completed, talking about the junior high, talking about all of our buildings, East Side, Central, the high school 5 years ago. So there are projects that would not, it's a double negative, so don't get mad. That would not be affected negatively, okay? The South Side project is not going to be affected by this project. The roof projects that were approved earlier will not. The junior high finalization of patching and painting and the asphalt behind the school will not be affected. The central projects in regards to asphalt would not be affected. The central roof would not be affected. Some people say, well, you need to spend more money on supporting students. Well, we have done that this year. We hired math interventionists. We've hired counselor, social worker. We're working on after-school programs. We've done summer school programs. We'll continue that. Last year, we did 1-to-1. You know, our technology has grown in the past 12 months tremendously. We've improved ventilation in all our buildings, and that's budgeted for moving forward, and that would not be affected by this project. We've expanded the pre-K program, and that will not be affected by this project. And we've added quite a bit of textbook purchases and will into the future. And we don't see those being affected by this project. So none of these endeavors would be negatively impacted by this project. And I want to just point that out because I thought of that for years. And we weren't in my opinion, we weren't in a position from a district standpoint to be able to do with all these other things out here, learning environments that do take precedent. Even being an ex-football coach, the learning environment takes precedent over a football field. But we've addressed all of those areas, and we will continue to address those as the plan and as things have been brought forward. So I just want to kind of share that information from the committee standpoint, and I committee members, please speak up, but I think from the committee standpoint was to bring it, share it, put it out there, and within the next 60 days, come up with whatever funding support can be there to come back to the board. And I would not expect our board and our district to pay $1.4 million for this project. I think there needs to be support for this project. That's my personal opinion. So as I mentioned before, in regards to ways that the district could handle some of this cost, I think I've shared that with you. But that's all things down the future in the next 60 days. But that's the time frame we're looking at. That's the information. And if I misspoke from the committee standpoint, please let me know. But or if there are any comments or questions, or we can move forward from there. But I just wanted to share that information.
Committee members have anything they want to add before we open it up for discussion? No?
Nope, we're good.
Okay. All right. Anybody? I've been jotting down a couple questions that have just come up while people have been talking. Obviously, I feel very strongly that, first of all, I value extracurricular activities, and obviously football is near and dear to my heart and my family's heart, but I'm very concerned at the price tag. That's it. I mean, I understand all of the advantages for the different groups that could benefit and utilize it. But I guess just personally, I've heard a collective gasp come from many teachers in the district at the thought that we might spend very much of $1.4 million on an artificial turf field of district money, just because I think that most of them probably think that there are some other priorities that they'd like to see. And some of them are small. And I kind of shared those thoughts with some of the board members, just things that they might want for their classroom that might be a few $100s or a few $1,000s, not anything talking in the million, $1 million, but that's something very common district wide. And it's something that almost every teacher has experienced, asked for something for their classroom, and it's not in the budget. And so they may have to wait till next year, or they may not get it. And Todd and I see a lot of that, because when they come to the foundation and request a teacher grant, those are requests that supposedly have already not been funded by the district. We're like their last resort. So we see people asking for things to use at preschool science centers, and sound systems for Southside, and a soundboard for the junior high, and lights for the stage in the high school, and portable mics for the kids, cordless mics for the kids to wear in dramatic performances, and software for the math teachers to use at the high school with the graphing calculators and things like that, which, you accumulate all those, and there's just a lot of that. So I think that's just my only concern, is what are our priorities? Because I think we all agree we would love to have the best academic program and the best extracurricular opportunities for our kids in the whole area. That would be our goal in Unit 40. But I think we have to, put some serious thought into priorities and how we can do that, and are we making the right choices based on that. We've done a lot with buildings and facilities. we've done a lot. We've made some moves in some academic areas. We've hired, Mark mentioned a couple interventionists. We hired 2 this year that were new. Shelley asked for 3. We only hired 2, and we're looking to see if, the success they have and seeing if we do need to hire more maybe next year as we try to assess the learning loss maybe that our kids have had because of COVID, the COVID, remote learning situation. So we're making some steps, but we're just kind of starting in some of those ways, and we may have to do more. We've made some huge leaps with technology, of course, the one-to-one initiative. But that's something that touches every student. So I think that's one of my concerns. I think we have to ask ourselves, what are our priorities, and then measure. And ultimately, at some point, we may decide we want to contribute some money towards an artificial turf field. But I certainly think that private donations would have to be a large part of that for me to ever be on board for that. So do we have a plan? Is a community group going to try to gather funds or raise funds, or do we have any idea of the committee maybe for that, or?
Not yet.
We talked about that, and we've made inquiries in regards to meeting hopefully this week to see where that could go.
Okay.
So
And if the unit contributed any funds towards the artificial turf, what fund would that come from, Jason?
Most likely, every 2 to 3 years, we use a
Working cash
transfer.
fund, right,
So we will be ready for that next summer.
right.
So that would be
Yeah,
our working
okay.
cash transfer for that.
That's what I assumed, but I did have somebody say, well, this would come out of a fund you can't use for blah, blah, but I figured this would be working cash, yes, which could be really used anywhere.
And like Mark said, if you'd asked me 3 years ago if we'd be talking about even the idea of turf, I would have told you no. We had too much building work to do to get our buildings up to speed. So we've had the ESSER funds, different things like that come in that have allowed us to complete those projects,
Right,
which have actually put us where we can even talk about this.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I would be telling you don't even talk about it.
Can you
I-
clarify with the ESSER funds, they can't be applied to something like this project? Those
No,
are for the
other
other
districts
projects.
have tried to use ESSER funds for turf and they have been
Right.
told no.
I think sometimes too, in our minds, when we consider something like this is a big project, but just when you were talking, sometimes we don't really listen to what we're saying, because in your comments, you said, we were talking about the band, and you were saying, the benefit would be for them to be able to practice at the high school, because the equipment they're pushing across the street would cost $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 a piece. We can't afford to purchase that to have both places. So $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, that's a drop compared to 1.4 million. We said we don't have all of the new lights at the junior high field because the cost came more. I'm just saying, so sometimes we look at those and we go, oh, that's too much, we really can't afford that. But, we have a lot of projects that maybe are half finished or that we could afford. And again, I just think we have to take a closer look at what we're doing and prioritize spending. And I hope that we get a lot of private support for this, because I think it would be a great thing. But I just would find it very difficult to invest a lot of our own district money.
It'd also be good, though, if it incentivizes others to go out for more participation in those groups or in those activities as well, because I think it would have some kind of an impact on the numbers that have been going down slightly with band and soccer and football and so on. It may incentivize more to participate.
Right. And
As well as the other
extracurricular
activities that
are
Mark
important.
pointed out, as far as PE and the other sports. I see no harm in pursuing just to get more information at this
Right.
time.
Oh, I agree, totally.
What about ongoing maintenance, Jason? I didn't see anything in here about that. Is there a component that's needs refreshed every year or
When
every
you
other year?
purchase the turf, they actually provide all the machinery you need to do the maintenance on it with the turf. And then I talked about the life expectancy, that's when you replace it all. So.
And if the equipment and the turf and everything gets replaced then, or would
The
we have?
equipment, as long as you take care of the equipment, lasts. It's the same equipment over and over. So it's a groomer that you pull along behind an ATV, something like that, which we already have. So you just need the groomer in order to bring the turf back to life. Tuck the rubber chips back underneath. Every 3 to 4 years you need to add rubber chips, but we do that on all our playgrounds already. That's not a very high cost to do that. And so, there's the maintenance side of it is minimal.
Minimum.
I also thought it was a little ironic that for the scoreboard, we're going to get a new video scoreboard when we
I
face
saw-
such a
I saw
challenge
that, right.
trying to use the video scoreboard in the high school gym that the sports backers donated to the school. And about 2 years, and we still are finding it a challenge to get it being utilized to the degree it should be
Right.
across sports and so on. So I thought that was interesting.
But you're
when I saw
getting
that.
options for a scoreboard, right? Or are they all video?
That's why I'm meeting with, this is what was provided by Vernon Jones, because the other schools they're putting in are all putting in videos, so they gave us the option of the video and the price. That's why I'll be meeting with Eric Black from there to it.
And then my other question was, so the turf, the woven turf lasts 12 to 15 years and the shock pad's 25. When you replace the turf, does the shock pad go as well, or can you put it, will the shock pad be?
So shock pad stays,
Okay.
they just take the turf off of it, and new turf down on top of it.
Obviously, I think that's important from a concussion standpoint to have that in place. And I do appreciate for the committee to bring this forward. I think we are at a point where we can have a discussion about it. So I do think it's good. Obviously, there's a lot of information that needs to be gathered yet on private donations. And then how would those folks be recognized? Would it be, permanently on the field, or would it be something temporary where those folks could be recognized for their donations? How would that be handled? Because we definitely don't want to impede the great things we've started from the educational process and the investments we've made there. So I, with Robin, am concerned, but I do think we're at a good place right now where we can have this discussion, and it is a potential possibility for us. So I'm excited to see what the community steps forward and does.
I would be a little bit concerned too about the schedule that would be created. It's a football field first, but then also, the band can use it, soccer can use it, other teams can use it for practices. But really, there's only so much time in the day, so who really gets the priority to use it? Because all those people can't be using it all the time. So it sounds good that that's what's available, but I'm not really sure how practically you make that happen.
The band schedule probably wouldn't conflict unless it was a night game, like a soccer game, as far as practicing on it. Because they practice usually, I think, Tuesday, Thursday. They used to anyway, evenings. But it could clearly be as far as practicing on it, could be a scheduling conflict.
And some of those school projects or programs are some are fall, some are spring. So it can be worked out. And if it's football season, we got games and soccer season. They've got games. So
Fall, or is that spring? Soccer.
it's in the fall.
Soccer's the same,
It's
same
spring.
season, same as football.
Fall. It's in the fall. Yeah. So, so the lights would be on a lot. I mean, that's what would happen. I do want to just clarify a little bit in regards to supporting staff. We talk about that a lot administratively in regards to, and I've made personal phone calls to staff about, well, what about this in your program, or in whether it's science or whether it's a math situation or whether it's a STEM class, what is it that we can provide? And so that does happen. I don't want anybody walking out of here or listening that to think that, those things aren't happening, because they are. Staff do, we talk to the principals all the time about checking with staff. What do they need? It's a strong belief, and this board's belief as well, because it's been a goal, and it's one of the core values that we talked about, is that we need to provide our staff the ability and the items to be successful. Our kids are successful, whether that be a technology, whether that be microscope, whether it be a textbook, whatever that case may be. And so we work extremely hard to try to make sure that occurs. So I want to make sure that, and I've had conversations, like I said, with staff about, well, bring it forward. If you have a plan, bring it forward. And I know for a fact that I've asked before, whatever isn't funded through the foundation, I did not know, and maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know that any of those teacher grants, they never came to my desk before they went to the foundation. So I just want to make sure, that's something I'm going to check into to make sure, because I know I've made that comment many times about what do we need to do, because we do have funds to help staff. So I want to make sure that as board members and as administrators that we're doing that to support our people. So, the idea was, again, from the committee to bring this forward, have a discussion, put it out there. Preliminary steps were, phone calls made to try to get something started, because quite frankly, and I've said this to many of you before, and I said it earlier, this has to be supported, right? In my opinion.
Right.
So, and if it is, then that makes the decision a little tougher, maybe, but that's, I guess, a good decision to make, or good situation to be in. But, so that's kind of where we're at for the next 30 days, or 60 days, excuse me. December 20th, I think, is our board meeting, correct? So, by that time, we would need to have some sort of discussion or decision. Maybe it's not this year, maybe it's the following, I don't know. But, those are things that have to happen pretty quickly.
Hopefully we could have a status report in November. So
Hope
we
so.
can kind of see where it's going, or,
Could we
Yeah.
get a report on safety also? I know that there are a lot of quote unquote experts out there that think that grass is more safe than turf and turf is more safe than grass. And I'd just like that clarified, like what is indeed safer for, falls and injuries. Is it true that turf is safer or grass is safer?
But we can get some information on that. I think, well, yes, to answer your question, yes.
I think that's important. And I think it's important that the public knows that this is a fact-finding mission. It's not that, oh gosh, we're getting turf. No, it was brought to our attention that there are several groups that are interested in having turf brought to our football facilities. And the only way that we can learn about it is actually going out on a fact-finding mission to find out how much it's going to cost and what does it take to actually install it and all of those things. So I appreciate that the conversation has been brought up, and I appreciate the work that Mr. Fox has done to gather the information. And I'm sure that over the next 60 days, we'll get more information. The more information that we have, the better decision-making we can make. And I really wouldn't want one group to say, well, we don't have this, so they can't have this. That's not how we work. We need to work together. So if something is lacking on this side of the coin, then we need to pick it up on both sides. So, for one group to say, oh, we can't do turf because we can't have this, we just need to make sure that everybody's on the same page.
yes. These moments, Jill. Anybody else? All right. Then I believe we are ready to enter closed session. I will entertain a motion and a second to enter into closed session for the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the district and student discipline. Motion by Steve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Jill. Roll call.
Steve,
Yes.
Brad,
Yes.
Robin,
Yes.
Jessica,
Yes.
Chad,
Yes.
Jill, Jane,
Yes.
yes.
Okay. Motion carries, and we will enter closed session.